Hey, welcome to today's video. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jessie, and today we are doing the mid-year book tag. I did this last year, so I'm going to be reusing the same questions that I did. These questions are all going around BookTube. Not gonna lie, these BookTubers have me stressing out because they've already posted these videos, and they've been up now for weeks, but me being me, I had to wait until the closest point to mid-year to film this video. I'm like, what if I read a really good book that I want to put in this video that I read throughout the month of June? We're kicking it off with a little bit of stats. My goal for 2024 is to read 120 books, and I've read 61 books so far. We're on track, we're doing good, and I have high hopes that I'm going to meet that goal by the end of this year. And then I did find out my average rating, which is a 3.47 for all the 61 books that I've read. I did have 2 DNFs and then a poetry book that I didn't rate, so those weren't thrown into the mix. Pretty average reading year so far. I definitely thought the average would be higher just because I feel like I've read so many good books this year. The books that I've read that I really liked are the ones that I'm remembering, and then all the books that I didn't like and I've rated lower I've just forgot about, so it makes sense that I feel like it should be higher. So getting into the first question. The first question is the best book that I've read so far in 2024. If you have been watching my channel this year, you can probably guess what I'm gonna say. Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I cannot even explain to you how much I love this book. This book is like a 10-star book for me. I want to reread this book again so bad. I read this in February. Everything in the universe seemed to line up for me to read this book, and it just blew me away. I loved it. So much adventure in here. There's so many things happening, but it happens at such a good pace. The story is great. It's about this girl who is a princess, and she has this magic, which in this world you're not supposed to have magic. Her stepmother then curses her and her 6 brothers. Her 6 brothers turns into cranes. She ends up with this bowl on her head, gets sent away, and she has to save her brothers. And you're just following her on that adventure. If you have not read this, please read it. If you hate it, don't tell me because I'll be very sad. But this is my favorite book of 2024 so far. Probably will be my favorite book of 2024 by the end of the year. And then moving on to the best sequel that I've read in 2024, I have an actual sequel, and then I have a novella. So the novella, I guess we're counting it as a sequel because it came after the first one, but this is Powerful by Lauren Roberts. I just thought this was such a fantastic novella. It was a great, fast story. The characters in here are amazing. Love them. And I think it's leading up to the second book in this trilogy very well. Was very happy that I read this. Definitely good. I gave this a 5 stars. And then if we're talking full-length novel, I have The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. This is the sequel to The Poppy War. Love this trilogy so much. This story is just absolutely amazing. I have to speak so highly of these books in this trilogy, so definitely recommend the Poppy War trilogy if you have not read it yet. It is a high fantasy, so if you're not prepared for that, just get prepared, get in that mental state, but it's so good and I think it'll be so worth it. Now we have a new release that I have not read yet, but I want to. The only book that I have physically is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I feel a little behind on this one because I got this in my Owl Crate book box, so usually my Owl Crate books I don't put on my priority TBR. I kind of just get them and they get thrown on my shelf or my TBR cart and I don't really think about them, which I need to stop doing. This one kind of got really popular after it got released and everybody seems to enjoy it a lot, so I'm very excited to get into this. I do feel like I need to read it while the hype is happening so I don't miss out and so that I don't get spoilers. It's about a witch and a witch hunter, and I believe it's a fantasy romance. The next one I have that I don't own yet is All Fours by Marina July. This one came out in May. After reading the synopsis of this book, I think it's going to be something that I'm really going to enjoy. So basically this is about a woman and she is kind of like an artist. I don't know if she's a little bit famous or whatnot, but she breaks it up with her husband and she leaves her child behind, which is so crazy to me. Essentially she goes on this road trip from LA to New York, just picks up her life and takes it somewhere else, and you're just following her along on her journey as she goes through this. And I'm really curious to find out why she left her husband and her child behind. I just think it's going to be a great book to read in my mid-20s, and I think it's going to be a great book about life and experience and adventure. I have high expectations for this book, so I'm really excited to get into it. The only reason I don't have this yet is because it is a hardcover and it's $30, and I don't feel like paying that much for a book. I definitely think I'm going to wait until this comes out in paperback, which is going to be a while, but I have my patience. Next, we're going to be talking about most anticipated releases for the second half of the year. I have 2. I'm not someone that really keeps up on new releases throughout the rest of the year, so I don't have too many in mind besides these. I think it would take me a long time to go through books and series and stuff and figure out which books are coming out, but the 2 that I know right now is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I know there are many haters for Powerless. I am not one of them, so I'm very excited for this book to come out. It's pre-ordered. It's going to be here in a couple weeks. I'm very stoked. I think that I am going to love this book more than the first one. I know that this book is a fantasy. It's fantasy romance, but the romance in this book, top tier. It's exactly what I'm looking for in books when there's any slice of romance. That's what makes me love it so much. And of course there's little fantasy elements thrown in there, and I love that too because I love fantasy. I think this series is going to be one of my all-time favorite series. I cannot wait for this. I cannot wait for more Kai and Payton. I'm just so excited. And then the only other one that I can think of is Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. I read her debut novel earlier this year and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it a 5 stars. It is a romance, and then this one is also going to be a romance, but Forget Me Not was amazing. I am bringing it up later in this video. I have a question that it's going to correlate relate to. Just from reading Forget Me Not and seeing how she portrayed a relationship and the main character's thoughts on relationships and her views, I really enjoyed it. It was kind of unique, something you don't really see in romance, and I related to it a lot, so I really love that book. I'm hoping I get the same vibes from Not Another Love Song. This is going to be about a musician. I don't really know too much about who the other person is, but I think it's gonna be very good. And if it's anything like her first book, if it gives me the same feels, she's definitely gonna become one of my favorite authors. Next we have what was the biggest surprise for this year so far. I'm gonna start out with something simple, something that I read that I was actually surprised that I liked it as much as I did. And this is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I've read Part of Your World and Yours Truly. I did rate those very high. I enjoyed those books a lot. The endings I feel just wrapped up too fast. I didn't like the whole third act conflict breakup thing in those two books. I think I gave them like a 4.5, so still up there. But when this one was coming out, I wasn't gonna pick it up at all. I had no intention to go out and buy this book and read it, and I don't necessarily know why. I think it's because of the third act breakup thing that was just frustrating me to like an extent that I didn't even want to think about it anymore. But everybody was raving about this book and I felt like I was being left out, so I had to get it. I gave this a 4.75 stars, very close. I still feel like the ending in this one was wrapped up very fast, which is why I gave it a 4.75 and not a 5. But this is my favorite book by her so far, and now I want to read her other trilogy that she has that is also kind of interconnected. And at this point I think I'm gonna pick up any book that she puts out. I was actually surprised with this book. I knew that I was gonna like it, but I didn't think that I would like it this much or get this many feels. Very emotional. The characters are amazing. I love their dynamics. The romance in here is fantastic, and I think the plot structure and how everything comes together and how it's laid out is very well done, and I just really like her writing. Now we're getting into little kind of silly stories with these books, and that's kind of why I'm putting it with this question. This is Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. I ordered this back in December. The special edition for Barnes came out. It has sprayed edges, and I love this color. Basically, I was on the Barnes & Noble app. I make nano blocks. If you don't know what nano blocks are, they're basically mini Lego type things, but nano blocks are their own brand, and I really like the anime Demon Slayer, so I wanted a Demon Slayer nano block to build. Barnes & Noble sells them, so I was ordering it through their app because everywhere else just did not have the nano block that I wanted. So I was on the app, I added the nano block to my cart, was gonna purchase it, and then I was like, I can't be on Barnes & Noble and not buy a book. So this book was out, it was pretty cheap. I ordered it, added it to my cart with that nano block, and then we were getting it in the mail. So I got this. The nano block ended up not even being in stock anymore, so I didn't end up getting what I actually wanted, but we got this book and I was like, all right, you know, I'm not gonna send it back because I do kind of want to read it. I've heard great things about this book for a while, but before I saw it on the app I had no intention to pick it up. So I do say that it's a surprise because I really enjoyed this book. I think I gave it a 4.5 stars. I'm glad that I just spontaneously bought it with a nano block that I thought I was gonna get. This is a YA kind of romance novel. This is great if you are in high school, or if you just recently got out of high school, or if you maybe had a bad experience with friendship in high school. Our main character has this friend group that she doesn't feel like she belongs in anymore, but she can't break off from them because they have been her friends for a while. And it's a very hard thing to do, especially when you're this age. But basically she has her interests that she doesn't have in common with her friends anymore, and I relate to that a lot. I think for me, when I was in high school, it was very hard for me to express myself in the way that I wanted to and my interests, because I didn't feel like anybody else had the same things in common with me. I was very reserved and I just hung out with people that I still got along with. I loved my friends. I was very connected with them, but it just wasn't a connection with my interest. So this book has a great portrayal of that, and it's a little bit of a romance. It has a poetry club. I just think this book is amazing. So if you have not read this yet, I definitely suggest it. And then last book for surprises, little funny story about this one. I have a video on this so you can see my whole experience with this happening, but it was in my blind date with the book video. So back in February, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a video related to a blind date on a book. I'm gonna go to the bookstore, pick up this blind date, and then read it and do a reading vlog. So I did do that, and I got this book. It's The Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim. I opened a blind date, saw this book, realized it was the second one, and then I had to order 6 Crimson Cranes. So I think it's just a surprise because I found my all-time favorite book from this whole experience, and then this one was the book that I actually got. I just think it's a funny story with how this all worked out. Next question is a favorite new author that is either a debut author, so they're new to everybody this year, or that is just new to me and then I have read their books for the first time this year. This is one of the books that I read very recently that I'm glad that I waited to film this video. This is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I loved his writing in this. He can weave together a story so well. He writes characters so amazingly. I love the layout of this. This is the first book I've read by him, of course, but I definitely want to read more of his books. I've heard a lot of great things about Beartown. I for sure want to pick that up later this year and get into more of his works because this was absolutely amazing. I gave this 5 stars. Blown away. New favorite author. And then of course, I can't go without saying Elizabeth Lim because I haven't read a book before this year by her. This one's just obvious. And then I also have Lauren Roberts. I really enjoy her writing. The romance in this and how she wrote that, and the banter. Her atmospheric writing, I think she can write scenes very well. I definitely can't wait to read more books by her, and I think that she's gonna do very good things in the future. Next question is newest fictional crush, which I don't feel like I have too many crushes in books or like book boyfriends that I think are elite. I don't really finish a book and then think about the character in that way. Obviously, when I'm reading the book, I really enjoy them in the romance that they have with the other character, but I don't know. None of them really stick with me too much, but I did have one this year. Going back to Powerless, Kai, the way that he is, perfect, is exactly what I'm looking for. I just think it's great. And I do also have Elliot from Forget Me Not. This is the book by Julie Soto that I was talking about. I just really liked Elliot. He's very quiet, reserved. He's kind of like that mysterious type of man. He's got tattoos, brown hair. That's for me. And I really liked him. I describe him as that tattooed patient boy that waits while the girl is having like a midlife crisis. He's like, yeah, I like her. I'm gonna wait for her. Love him. Alright, next we have books that made me cry. I'm a very easy crier. I believe the book that made me cry the most this year was The Burning God by R. Kwong. This is the finale to the Poppy War trilogy. And if I think about this book too much in the ending, I will cry again every time I think about it. So, Burning God. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Funny story. Just for the summer. Anxious People. Powerless. And Powerful. And probably all the other ones, but those are the ones that I remember actually crying quite a bit too. I'm a crier. It's how it goes. Going into the complete opposite, books that made me happy. I don't have any books for this one. I couldn't think of any that like actually, I mean, all the books that I rated highly have made me happy because of how much I like them. Why is this a hard question for me? It shouldn't be. Happiness is great and I felt it a lot while reading, but I don't think I can pick a specific book for this one. So if you go on my Goodreads or if you watch my previous videos, just know that any book that I have rated highly has made me happy. That's all I can really say for that question. Next is the most beautiful book that I have purchased or have received. I had a pre-order from last year, which came in the mail this year. It came out in April, and this is Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. I just absolutely love this cover so much. It's a special edition from this small book business, but the back is beautiful, front's beautiful. It's got that soft cover, spine, chef's kiss. You want to open it. Look at this like page overlay. I love it so much. Fun black and white illustration. Sorry, I'm throwing this book around right now. I'm probably not doing a good job at showing you, but I don't know. I'm really in love with this book. I need to read it. It's on my June TBR. Have I read it yet? Nope. I do think it's absolutely beautiful and I adore the look of this book. Now moving on to the last question before I talk about a little bit of wrap-ups and things that I want to happen for the rest of the year book-wise. This question is, what books do I need to read by the end of the year? I'm not too picky for what I have to read the rest of the year. I don't want to set too many expectations for what I want to get done reading-wise in a certain time period because I feel like it would just stress me out. With reading, I mood read. I read what I want to read when I want to read. It really allows me to still enjoy the books that I'm reading, but I definitely have some books that I want to get to before 2024. I did have a video and a list that I made of 24 books that I want to read before the end of 2024. I don't have the list anymore, so I'd have to go back and watch that video, but basically most of those, I know there's some books on that list and in that video that I don't want to read anymore. Some I have already read, but I don't even remember what books I said. If you want to watch that video, knock yourself out. I don't really know what's in there, but for what I can think right now, A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas, I need to finish this series. I'm so sorry that I don't get the hype of this series, but I do just want to finish this book and I don't want to stop in the last book. I know there's more coming out. I did this with Throne of Glass. I stopped in book 5. This one, I'm not stopping. No matter what I do, I am going to read this by the end of the year. Hopefully soon, hopefully in July. I just don't really have any motivation to read this and finish the series. We will get to it eventually. And then I also have Wayward by Amelia Hart. I was waiting for this to come out in paperback. It finally did this year, so when I purchased it, I set it on my little TBR cart and I didn't pick it up. I wanted to pick it up right away and I just pushed it off. I didn't buy this too long ago though, so it hasn't been sitting on my TBR cart for a while, but my mental TBR, it's been on there. I'm just waiting to get into that mood where I want to read this book. Lastly, if we're really talking, if we're really stretching, I have It by Stephen King. I have to hold this with 2 hands because it's so ginormous, like literally. But I was gonna read this every so often. I was gonna pick it up, read some pages, set it down, and read it in between other books. And I didn't stick to that because I don't like reading more than one book at a time. And then I just never picked it up after that. So I'm on page 300 something out of almost 1200, and I just keep forgetting about it because I don't have it in my room with my other books that I need to read. It's on my bookshelf with all the books that I have read. I'm not ever looking at this book and thinking about picking it up because it's not in my sight. I should probably keep this in my room so I can look at it and have it, you know, smiling at me creepily and making me feel like I need to read it. All right, so that's it with the questions. I did just want to say a couple more things, which I don't really know what I wanted to say. We're kind of just gonna wing the rest of this video, I guess. But I do feel good about my reading so far this year. I definitely think that I am finding more of my reading taste. Last year, I think I was definitely reading a lot of books that people were recommending on the internet that were very popular. And a lot of them I didn't really love too much. So I'm glad that I'm finally finding my taste and being more picky about books that I want to read. I'm coming into my own on what books I want to read, what genres I want to get into, and kind of the feelings that I want to get when I read a book. Very happy about that. I think it's gonna get even better from here on out. I'm just excited to continue reading all the time because it's what I love doing. Very happy to be here, very happy to be sharing my thoughts on a channel. What I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to make videos, and reading is my favorite hobby. So putting them together is just perfect for me. I'm just really glad that I'm doing that. Thanks for being here, and thank you if you have stuck around on my channel and you watch my videos. It really means the world to me. That's pretty much it. I just wanted to give a little shout out to you guys for being here. That is it for the mid-year book tag. Please feel free to copy the questions. I'll have them in the description and then answer them in the comments below. If you are watching this until this point, let me know what your favorite book of 2024 has been so far. With that being said, that is it for this video. I will see you in my next one, whatever that may be. I hope you have a great day or a great night wherever you are, and I will see you later. Bye.